There it is. Okay, so welcome again, everybody, and welcome, Vasco. I'm really, really happy you said yes to this invitation. And Vasco is a colleague and friend. He's an SPT practitioner, and he also is a preceptor in the human flourishing, in the heartfulness tradition. He's also a facilitator for human flourishing, and he's a trainer in the Search Inside Yourself. Maybe some of you know about that mindfulness practice that started in Google. So you can read about him in his website, so I won't take more time about that, but thank you so much for coming, Vasco. And he'll talk to us today about using SPT in large conferences, and then some other stories that he has, experiences from the field. That's how we title this this conversation today. So the idea is to generate conversation. And so if you can, go ahead and put your name in the chat. Since there's lots of us today, we won't have the time to go and say hello each. And so if you can put your name and where you are today, I can just start kind of reading some names, and to have a sense of who's in the room. And then we'll go ahead and start. I recognize some of you. Agatha in Paris. I see Rowena is here also. Liz McNichol in Seattle, Washington. Richard and Suzanne in Germany. Shannon in the Midwest, US. Fausto in London. Anna, Portugal. Wow, that's really nice. Christine is in the US. Annie Blair in Portland. Yulia and Kiev in Ukraine. Wow, right, nice. Rome in Italy, Rowena in the West Coast, Silvana in South America, Bolivia. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So I am in San Francisco. My name is Mary. For those of you that don't know me, I have been hosting this. This is our second edition. And I have been hosting SPT calls as well throughout the ULAB mostly. So without further ado, Vasco, please tell us about what are you're going to share with us, and then after the presentation is going to be open for questions. If during the presentation you have a question, go ahead, put it in the chat, and I'll read it back to Vasco at the end. And then we'll see how it goes, whether we raise our hands or ask a question through the chat. But the idea is that to wake up conversation, to like initiate questions that you might have about how to use SPT and all this, okay? And then we'll close at the end all together. So there you go, Vasco, it's yours.
Okay, so thank you, Mary, for this wonderful invitation. For me, it's a great honor and a great pleasure to be here. And thank you all for coming. I see some familiar faces like Marcelo. Marcelo, we are colleagues in the university. I don't know, 20 years ago or something like that. and Agatha, we just were together. By the way, Agatha, you know this presentation, so you can ask your money back, by the way. And Rowena, that was part of the practice group, and Ana Bernardes as well, and I hope to meet the others in the future. So my presentation, let me just see if I can put the slides. So the idea is just to share with you some experiments I've been doing regarding SPT and integrating SPT. And let me just see if this works. So I wonder if you're seeing the slides. So okay, so I'm going to share with you some like I call it field experiments, which basically it was 3 experiments using SPT in different settings, and then the idea is just to open for Q&A, as Mary was saying, and I can share some of the, especially the what went wrong and about this experiment. So the first experiment was really about some months ago in something called the House of Beautiful Business, where it's kind of a gathering of 6 days where people 200 to 300 people from all over the world. Mainly people connected with the corporate world come together and thinking about how can we bring the human side again to the business. So they invite not only these CEOs and entrepreneurs and people that are thinking artificial intelligence, but also artists and philosophers and all kinds of people together in to think about how can we bring this human side to the corporate world, which is more and more kind of we just see things that people kind of burning out and so on. So they invited me to go to this wonderful venue. This was a 6 days, I told you, and I had a 1 hour and a half taster. So there was these breakout sessions, and they said, oh, just come and do 1 hour and a half. So it was a client of mine. He already came to a practice group of SPT. He enjoyed it a lot, and he said, oh, the body is really important for us to bring into this conversation. So do you want to come and do some social presencing theater taster? So it was a challenge because most of these people that were on the room, they are kind of very fast thinkers, very much in the mind. And I had 1 hour and a half just to kind of bring them together and do something. So we had more or less 30 people in the breakout session. And it was really nice because in 1 hour and a half, we did some sort of 20-minute dance and some sort of village, and even a kind of a short taster of a stuck, so just an individual stuck. And I was amazed by the feedback. Actually, people really, in just a short amount of time, most of them were able to realize the impact of these practices, these embodiment practices, and the awareness that these practices can bring. So I just share with you some of this, the feedbacks, but it was really interesting. The guy that is not here, his feedback, after this, he just realized how these practices can be so important in his day-to-day life, and he's kind of an entrepreneur, always kind of fast-moving. And he sent me a message that he started meditating and kind of doing some 20-minute dance in the morning. So I don't know if he continues to do it, but it was really interesting how he really in 1 hour and a half just got really into the practices and so on. Especially the stuck really touched most of the people, and it was really interesting. So this was a kind of the first experiment, and then I can speak a little bit more about some of the challenges, like for instance, getting into the room and there was it was not so much prepared, the room. So although I asked a lot of things and I went to the room before, but even though there was a lot of challenges. So I can share kind of what was needed also in terms of the design, how to think about the design that's kind of fast, and you need to kind of bring people into this space and really to create a safe space for people that probably have a lot of protectors, and coming into the body probably is not for some of them so easy. So how to create that safe space of people to dive in and to trust you and to really, I just lost 3 people. So in 30, I think it's a good, only 3 people went away after the 20-minute dance, but the others stay there. I don't know if they were kind of, I'm not going away now. But it was really nice. And actually some of them asked me they self-organize a new gathering during this House of Beautiful Business. So they found a room and we did a 3-hour more session and we dived deeper. So, and other people came. So, and some of them said that they also want to do the basics of SPT and so on. And this was just a kind of a very short kind of taster. So this was kind of the first field experiment that I have to share. Maybe I can share the 3 and then we have Q&A. What do you think, Mary?
That sounds great. That sounds fantastic. Thank
you. Okay. And if I'm speaking too fast, just let me know, because I'm kind of having this idea, or let me just share this and then have more time for the Q&A. So if I'm speaking too fast, just do something.
Just tell me, where was this, in what country, and then again the name of the conference?
So this is in Portugal. These guys, one of them is based in San Francisco, and the other is based in Berlin, but somehow they chose Lisbon to host this House of Beautiful Business. But this is a kind of a worldwide event where people from Australia and United States and all over the place, Africa and so on, they come, and most of these people are entrepreneurs and CEOs and TED Talks, people that gave TED Talks. So a lot of kind of, some of them very famous people, and some of them are really, really famous in terms of the companies they created and so on. So, and also some philosophers and artists and musicians and all types of people, but all of them with this intention of how can we create a more human corporate world, and kind of and bringing these human values back into the dialogue.
Wonderful, thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to dive now into the second experiment, which is about integration. And so integration, I'm going to speak to share with you something we have been doing here in Portugal, which is a program called Deep U. So we call it an awareness-based human flourishing program. And when we say about integration, it's because we try to integrate different practices. So we try to integrate mindfulness with heartfulness, which is a yogic practice, meditative yogic practice, with social presencing theater, with other presencing practices, and with Giftivism and gift ecology principles. So we did 6 editions till now. These are kind of the people that the navigators, the sailors that went through the program, which is a 3-day program. And here SPT is at the service of the process. So basically this is a 3-day program where people in 3 days, it's a very experimental program, so it doesn't have so much space for content or theory. So there's a preparation before, but mostly it's a retreat. And in this retreat, people go through this 3-day process where the first part of the process is about becoming aware. So it's kind of going down the U. So the U is used as a framework for this program. So the first day is about becoming aware, and really aware. In this case, the system that you are working is yourself. So your body-mind system and the way you relate with other systems. So the idea here is really to use SPT to really allow you as a human being in this world to be more aware of who you are and where you are. So this is kind of the first part of the program. Then the second part is about connect to the source. It's about really going down the U. And here, some of the SPT practices are very useful, but others are even more. I find, for instance, like heartfulness. Heartfulness really helps people to connect to the source and really to be connected with their highest self, with their essence and something larger than themselves. And then the third day is about manifesting. It's about flourishing. So it's about how can I bring who am I into the world. So we did 6 experiments in terms of SPT. Basically, we do all the practices. Only the 4D map is the only one we don't do it. And SPT is at the service of the process, the same way as heartfulness is at the service, as mindfulness, and so on. So the practices, they work as kind of, they catalyze each other. So they are kind of intertwined in a way that it's like a generative spiral where each practice catalyzes the other and the other and the other. And the first days is about going down the U and really to go down into the bottom of the U. And on the last days is about going up, is really about bringing energy and so on. And it has been quite an amazing experiment. And several of the people, when we ask in the future about what was most impactful, most of them say that social presencing theater was one of the most impactful things of the program. And this is a very kind of, they go through a lot of things, but social presencing theater, by bringing the body into the dialogue, into the reflection, really elevates the process of awareness, the process of connecting, and the process of flourishing into a step further. At least I found it really. So it's really takes people out of the cognitive and really brings people into the body. But the funny thing is that although people, several of them say that this was really impactful, when you ask them which practices do you want to continue now, so only 70 to 80% say social presencing theater. People really recognize the value, but in terms of continue the practice, it's kind of, some people activate some protections and they don't feel so comfortable and so on. I have some people that say, oh, I never like the social presencing theater in the beginning, but then in the end it's really nice. But to start kind of to open myself to it, it's a struggle. So we have been collecting a lot of feedback on this, and it's really kind of amazing. So what can happen when you really create a safe space for people and you give practices for them to open the mind, to open the heart, and to open the will. And once again here, SPT is really a key, a very key piece on this puzzle. And we've been having this type of feedback, kind of people saying that this was one of the strongest experiences of their life, or kind of this was a kind of a very inspiring orientation of existence. And I think we have one or two people that went through the DPU program online. I think Ana Bernardes, she's online, and she can speak for herself. And so we are kind of amazed by how these practices and especially the practices together with other practice, SPT with other practice, really can be at the service of each person's process and catalyze this process of awakening to who they are and where they want to go. So it's really kind of a very, it's really inspiring for us to be able to share this. And if you want to learn more about the program, you can read this 1-year report where you can know more about some of the other practices and how they intertwine with each other, and some more testimonials of people and so on. Or even you can go to the website and see. So this is kind of the second experiment, which is really about integration and how powerful SPT can be, and we know it alone, but I think integrated in a process, it can be even more interesting for me to use these practices, these tools at the service of a process. Really can elevate the dialogue to a completely different level, much more deeper, much more with much more impact, I would say, and much more. It allows people to realize things that are not cognitive. And most of us are kind of very much into the cognitive side, and we are trained, and society kind of pushes us into be very good in the cognitive. But here is really bringing the body. So just to finish, the last one, which was after, and I know I'm kind of reaching my time, 15 minutes. So the last one is after doing the DPU. Once I had this, doing a meditation, I had this vision or idea of scaling. So, and I start kind of doing this thought experiment about what would be to scale this up to, and how many people could we do this? And so I received an invitation to do this with 1,200 people, basically. So it was a huge seminar in India. So there was a lot of challenges, like the language, the culture, the age, because most of these people were between 15 and 27, 28, and I'm now 40. So kind of just not some things. I don't know what are the kind of the codes and so on of the teenagers now. So it was really interesting, and I thought, oh, maybe we can do some SPT as well here. So 1,200 people, and I remember to be looking at people and having the thought, kind of, oh, this can be really this can really be a nice experiment and a learning experiment, or it can be an epic failure. And if it's an epic failure, I have a lot of a nice story to tell. So some of the things went well, and others not so well. But for instance, when I said to them, we are going to do an exercise called the 20-minute dance, and imagine 1,200 people start yelling, yeah, very, very happy that they thought they were going to dance, by the way. But when they realized that it was not going to be a kind of a dance with music, they were not so happy. But we did a kind of a short version of the 20-minute dance, starting standing because there was no space, which didn't work so well, by the way. We did a kind of a village, kind of small villages in this big village. We did a short version of a stuck, and also we did a kind of a short version of a seed dance, kind of only on the individual level. And it was really interesting, and we received a lot of feedback how this helped them to really, especially the stuck and the seed, and even the village. One person here said that she found herself really open to the others, and really to be aware of this action that we have in the world that can come from either the small self or the highest self. And we have a choice. Each step we have a choice. Where are we coming from? Where's the source of our action? So it was really interesting, and I received feedback from people saying that they had suicidal behaviors and so on. And once again, the integration of these practices, and they were in this was a 6-day program where they were doing also other things, not only this program with me. So that all of these things together in a big container, which was a retreat, helped them, or helped some of them, to really also become more aware of themselves, more connected, and more kind of engaged in bringing themselves into the world. So this is what I have to share. Sorry if I spend 5 minutes more or so, which is about using SPT as kind of tasters for people really to know SPT and to be connected with the body, using SPT integrated with other things, and how that can somehow work as a catalyst, and also the possibility of doing this in scale. So this is what I have to share with you now. Sorry if I spoke too very fast, but I was trying to cover everything and to share with you. So I don't know what would be useful now, Mary, and all of you.
Thank you. This is fascinating, actually, and I love it that they're 3 very different, in a way, different things, and so it shows us a really big, possibility of how to use these practices and where. So I wonder if everybody that's here, what are you sitting with after you listen to Vasco tell us his stories and the experience, and how when you see yourself thinking of using these practices, what comes up for you that could be helpful right now? I have a couple questions that I could ask, but I'd like to open it up for people. I'm imagining there's a few, like there's different levels. Some of us have been using the practices or even teaching the practices. Some of us are just learning. So any comment or question is welcome.
And if I don't know the answer, I will do as the Dalai Lama does when he doesn't know the answer, which is it just smiles and say, I don't know. So you can ask whatever you want.
I'm afraid I've only just been able to join the session, but may I put my thing? I'm considering the possibilities of using SPT with a group of people who would consider themselves completely not up for something like this, which would be seen as something far out. I'm talking about a group of about 18 to 25-year-olds mostly, although there are a couple of older people there who might perhaps be a little bit more sympathetic. So these people are coaches in a boxing club. It's a non-contact boxing club for 8 to 18-year-olds. It's a 10-year-old organization in which I've been involved in the development of, and we're sort of approaching a key point. And, you know, I'd love to know suggestions that you might make about how to introduce this gradually and carefully and slowly and sort of non-threatening kind of way. I don't think that they would lie down for 5 minutes and do nothing, or maybe I could persuade them, but any tips you can give me about this would be very, very useful.
So you said, if I understand correctly, that they are kind of part of it's a boxing club, kind of. Yeah. Boxing really with the body, kind of. So they are connected with the body. That's a good starting point.
Yes, it is. But they don't hit each other. It's non-contact.
Okay, that's nice. Even better.
Yeah, so you use pads all the time. You learn boxing by boxing against pads.
So I would say, I think that's and I think I understand what you're saying, and I think one of the things that is useful is to reach them where they are, and how, because probably they will think, why am I going to do this? What's in it for me? This is important for me. So the more you can understand their needs, the more you can sell this for them. And for instance, if you, one thing that is coming to mind, but other people that are online probably have other ideas. So, but one that comes to mind is that if they are working with their bodies, and they really need to be aware, even if there is no contact, they need to be aware. So, and these are practices. So SPT also, I think it's really useful and helpful in helping you attune yourself, not only with your body, and practices like the 20-minute dance, you can say that this is a mindfulness of the body. And the more you do this, the more you are going to be aware of your body and what's happening in your body. Because if you are boxing, you are going to have reactions in the body. So if you are more aware of that, you are more able, I don't know, to answer faster or whatever. And practices like, for instance, the village, really help you to be in contact with other bodies. That's what the village is about, I think, also. So, and if they are communicating mostly in a non-verbal way using boxing, so I would say that probably you can frame this as, oh, let's use these practices, for instance, 20-minute dance in the village, as practices to first attune yourself kind of in a vertical awareness, body-mind, so more aware with your body, and the village as a horizontal awareness practice, so where you are going to attune yourself with what's around, with your social body around you. So that's what comes to mind. I don't know if other people that are in the call, like Mary and Agat, they are teachers, and probably others are as well. If you have other suggestions, but this is what comes to mind. I think it would be much difficult if you were with CEOs that kind of just think of kind of because those guys are already in the body, and that will be very important for them to be in the body and aware of what's around them. So so that's what comes to mind.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vasco. I feel that I really like the vertical and the horizontal wording of it. I also feel that a lot of the time it's how do we feel as the facilitator or the person that invites people into these practices is also very important. If we do believe in the practices ourselves, if we do the practices ourselves, and if we have the experience of how helpful they are, sometimes it's easier for us to talk about it and invite people into. And then almost as the energy comes out of us, and then it's somewhat is welcoming for the people. So it's almost at a different level. It's not so much the words that come out of our mouths, but it's almost the energy that we're inviting people into. And I noticed that when we can, sometimes it's even more important than the words that we say. And so then people almost as if they drop into some like another dimension of of trust that gets created. So I do remember Arwana at one point telling us something like, you need to believe it and trust it yourself first, and then people will come into that field.
Thank you. Yeah.
That's what I will add. Okay. Thank you for your question, Peter.
Thank you for having me.
Anything else? There's Shannon. Yes, please.
I have a follow-up question to that. Thinking about a couple groups, but one in particular is with high school students who don't have that specific tie-in with the body, and really helping to build that container when there's just thoughts that you have on building a container when you've got a group that may be more resistant, whether it's the student group or the CEOs that are so used to being in their head and in control.
Okay. I think what Mary said is really important. I think people really capture where you're coming from. I think, of course, if you are in the social field where it's not safe to be in the body, or it's kind of not safe to be vulnerable. Imagine that you are in a group of people that you were bullied by someone that's in the room, probably don't feel safe. So for me, it's really important from the beginning to create a safe container for them to not do something if they don't want to do it. So if they don't, really to say that this is for them, and really not to force them to do anything. And also sometimes I find it's useful also to make visible what's happening in the room. For instance, in the 20-minute dance that I share with you in India, I noticed myself that I probably was the only one doing it. So in front of 1,200 people, I shared the 20-minute dance, the instructions, and then I was doing it, but I was noticing sometimes I was looking, and I was noticing that probably only 1/4 of the people were doing the exercise. All the others were kind of just standing there, most of them teenagers, and kind of looking at each other. So in the end, I just acknowledged that, and I just said, oh, maybe this didn't work for you, or maybe this is culturally not accepted here in India to just be here. So I just made that visible. And try to enter kind of in a dialogue, with them, and basically saying that, oh, that's nice, that's interesting. It's kind of, or as I want to say, interesting, interesting. Kind of, oh, most of you decided not to do it. That's very interesting. What's here for us to observe, and so I think the more you are okay with what's in the room, and able to work with what's in the room, and maybe people really don't want to go there and maybe they have good reasons not to go there. Maybe they were traumatized by some situation, some of them, and they don't want to go to the body. I'm now doing a certification in something called internal family systems, which is a psychotherapy approach, and it's really, I'm amazed by how much trauma we carry and how much trauma we hold in the body, and after that I'm much more sensible to, when I'm working with a group, kind of for people to really be gentle with themselves, and when you are a teenager you have a lot of parts that are activated, that are protecting you. So I think just making that visible and making that okay, so if you don't want to do it, just don't do it. I find that some people normally relax, kind of, oh, if I don't want to do it, I don't do it. Oh, that's okay. And I'm not going to be kind of, pointed out, oh, why are you not doing it? Or something like that. So yeah, but each field is a field, each group is a group. And I don't have so much experience with teenagers. Maybe others in the call have. But it's a challenging, I would say it's a challenging and probably also funny group to work with. But because the prefrontal cortex is not yet mature, so a lot of emotions they cannot manage well, impulses, and so a lot of things there that it's probably make it difficult for them to be in their bodies. So I think be gentle and compassionate as well. So I don't know if someone else has other. That's what comes to mind. So other people might have other suggestions or probably more practical.
Thank you, Vasco. I see Liz is unmuting herself. Yes.
Yeah, I just want to thank you for sharing your experiments. Beautiful story. I am new to SPT, so I will be taking the class actually next month. So this is a preview of what it is. So I'm curious, Vasco, given your experiments and other things that you have been doing, what is up for you? What are you most excited about now?
So what's most exciting me about at this point, especially regarding SPT? So I really, as you probably noticed, I really enjoy integrating things. So most of what I do is about integration, and I'm really excited with exploring more this internal family systems model, which comes also from the systems thinking approach, and applying that to our inner world, kind of inner family, with the notion that we have kind of multiple parts or multiple personalities, but we also have a self, a core self, as Arawana speaks a lot about and others about highest self, or you can call it other things. And it's really about how can I connect with that and integrate my inner system. So I'm sensing, and this is just an intuition, that these two worlds can really, these two worlds of IFS, internal family systems, and using some of the social presencing theater practice, especially for instance stuck, which sometimes we are already doing that, but in a way that it's not probably conscious. We just I feel kind of divided. One part of me wants to do this, and another part wants to do that. But I'm sensing, I have this intuition that if you clarify the parts beforehand in a way that it's kind of safe for people to go into that place, I think it can really be even more interesting and more, I'm missing the word, have a bigger impact into people's processes. Because I had this teacher of IFS, she started something called somatic IFS, so it's really about the body. So she kind of opened this branch of IFS with the body, and I'm really looking forward to explore this, because something that happens a lot, and other people can also share that from their experience, I believe, is although SPT was not designed for therapy, and it's not designed for therapy, but most people say they feel therapeutical kind of benefits from doing it. So I don't know, probably other people are already investigating that, and I'm not a researcher, but I believe that if you have a language to address the inner system, and then you have tools like SPT to work with that, of course, probably in this case, you need to be a therapist. It's not kind of, let's just make experiments with people. So, because that can be not nice and ethical and damage people. So, but if you have this background, if you know this, and I think these two worlds can really, bringing those together can really be useful, for instance, for someone that's a therapist to use. So, but this is just this excites me now at this point. I'm very excited. But I'm in the beginning, so I don't know so much now. I will next year I will let you know.
Thank you, Vasco. Annie is asking, who is the teacher of IFS?
Her name is Susan McConnell. I can write the name. It's Susan McConnell. If you go to, I think the website is embodiedifs.com or .org. I can check that, by the way, and then I can send, I don't know, through who? Or maybe Mary or someone, or I can Google now and send you. But she's Susan. I will write here, McConnell.
And maybe I can put it in the YouTube channel when I share the recording of the talk today, the conversation. So I wonder if there is one more question. Well, we still have time for more than one, but what is coming up for you?
Rowena. Hi, Rowena.
Hi.
Rowena was part of my first practice group. She was kind of she was exploring it with me. Thank you, Rowena, for being able kind of to be kind of a guinea pig with all the kind of respect for guinea pigs for you.
It was nice, and I could relate to that experience on site and then online. So then I had two experiences to relate every time I was growing in my SPT practice as well. And so one thing, just a few observations. I'm excited that you are joining, integrating with IFS. I've been exposed to that, and I really was curious to go deeper into that. So it's good news to hear that you are getting that together and getting to the body and other things that can come up. So one experience that I have had recently with online with a group that in a hub. Also, there were this question of having the camera off during the practice. So, and actually there was one person who was with the camera off while we were practicing. And it was amazing to see how we could all sense even though the person was off. Some people have more difficulty because they could not see, and maybe that has to do with their primary, they being primary visuals. But the interesting thing was that if we sense with our body and we are practicing more and more connecting with our body and being more sensing, we can actually see even when we don't have an image. That was powerful. And I've practiced twice. One time my camera was also not working and I was in a breakout room, and it gave me good feedback from people who could not see me. So that's just an experience that I've had and I would like to share. And also that plugs with the space. And I really like what Mary said. It's very important how we come, what energy and how do we present ourselves as when we are facilitating the practice. And it plugs with what you said, Vasco, about understanding better the body and allowing people to choose if they want to, however they want to be, if they want to do the practice or just be and just watch. So just to add to what.
Thank you. Thank you, Rowena. Nice to have you as always. So Annie just posted in the chat the link of the website for IFS. And so if anybody is interested in clicking on that and grabbing it. Okay, so
thank you, Annie.
I'm going to ask a question myself, and if you do have another question, please either raise your hand or put it in the chat. But I was curious, Vasco, when I think yes, in the taster and the scale experiences that you share, you chose to use the same practices, which are the 20-minute dance, the village, and individual stock. And in one of them, you use seed dance as well for individual. I wonder, when you were invited and you knew you had the possibility to do this, what made you choose these practices to share with people? I wonder if there's like, what was your thought process and what were you expecting to get by actually choosing these practices to share?
So my thought process, by the way, is very much intuitive. So I don't. So it's about. I would argue, probably looking back, it's. So in both cases, I wanted to come to the stuck exercise, and I feel that if you go directly to a stuck without, for instance, a 20-minute dance, and especially if you do a stuck then with a group, without, if you don't do a kind of a village or kind of a groups of 5 village, what I find, actually I don't find, because I never tried it without doing that, because I feel that it's so important first to bring people into the body and then to the social body, and then only do a stuck. So I prefer to do, in that case, that I could go directly into a stuck, but I think if I did it, people would be in the brain. They would be conceptually analyzing the stuck or whatever. Of course, we could go through the exercise and do the individual and the social stuck and so on. But in this case, I thought, no, we first of all, we need to once again attune people with their vertical awareness and horizontal awareness. So, and actually even before that, we did a meditation, we sat for 5 minutes, we connect with our intention, we connect with our hearts, we sat silently for 5 minutes, and then we move into and one thing normally, especially in these groups, I always try to front load the rationale. Why are we going to do this? Because I know that some people, they need to understand the why before doing it, because otherwise there will be resistance, or even for them to choose if they want to do it or not. So in that case, for instance, the House of Beautiful Business, I had the intuition that most of those people are kind of very smart and very left-brainy, kind of thinking very fast and so on. So I really needed to share with them the why. And here the why was really about attunement, and about attunement with yourself and attunement with the others. And then after yourself kind of being attuned, now let's work on something like a stuck exercise and so on. So that's the thought process. And in India, we were going through the U. It was a 12 session. So I had 2 hours a day. So 2 sessions of 1 hour. So they were in a retreat. So we were following the U process. And here, when we were using SPT, especially these 3 practices, we were on the sensing. So the first part, we were on the seeing, we kind of looking at ourselves from different perspectives, using mindfulness from the sense, more kind of meditation, to really be awake, aware, present. But here, we were moving into the sensing. And for sensing, for me, it's kind of obvious that you need to use more than the mind. You need to use the body. You need to use everything that you have. And the body is really a lot. But most people just use the body as a taxi for the head. So, and here the idea was really to allow them to connect with the body in a way that it's not just sitting and doing a body scan, which is really interesting, and I do it, and we did it actually in India as well, but also moving from a still shape and just scanning your body with your inner attention, but also moving, using movement, and using movement with others, and seeing how the movement of others impact you and you impact the others, and expanding the awareness for the social system. And then doing the stuck, because I think you are on a level that it's not just analyzing, and which is interesting, and it's wonderful that we have this capacity. But if we bring other intelligences like the heart and the body into the dialogue, wow, that is much more interesting. So, but it requires time. It's just not, for some people, it's just not, oh, let's do the stuck, because I imagine that would probably activate a lot of defenses and protection mechanisms. Yeah, so that's I would say my intuitive thought process was that, but was not something, actually most of the ideas, they come through meditation. I'm just sitting there meditating, and suddenly the ideas come, and in the end I write them and then I test them, and some work, some don't, and it's always a learning process.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. That's helpful. And I wonder how other people are thinking as well. If you were to use these practices, I wonder also if you have used and if you want to share any experience that you have. In this case, either kind of priming, seems like priming the body and priming the space in order to get into a more, committed, like a stuck exercise.
Mm-hmm.
What else comes up for you?
I can share briefly something that I used during a course at SPT Basic, where at some point, halfway through the second day, people had been exercising and deepening the practices a lot, and somehow there was a rise in the tension in the room, inner tensions, and I sat with that for 5 minutes after lunch and to figure out to feel what to do with that. And what came to me, I wouldn't say in meditation, but in a sort of a silent time of thinking, was to use drawing, just to create a sort of a inner dimension where people dive back into drawing with a lot of colors, pastel drawing. People dive into a different medium to process what they were going through. And it really worked. And it was just like a short little moment of maybe, 10 to 15 minutes. And then we could dive back into the body work. Really balancing practice.
Wonderful. So thank you, Agatha, for sharing this. Agatha is also a teacher in SPT. She teaches basic programs. I really am hearing, especially from the two of you here, Vasco and Agatha, this interesting almost door that comes in when we come back to the space and we put ourselves in the receiving mode of what else is needed here and how else can I actually address it, instead of kind of going like more into what can I do, but it's almost like what can I do, and just sitting there and receive almost from the space what is the next thing to do. I really like that.
Yeah, and one thing I think, for instance, I can speak for me, which is I found that SPT, some of the practices, for instance, like a field dance, really helped me, for instance, as a facilitator, to sense what's in the room. And for instance, what Agatha was saying, that there was a drop of energy in the. So probably I would imagine, Agatha, that you felt that. So it was not just something that you saw people's frowning. No, you felt it in the body. And for instance, for me as a facilitator, things like field dance really helped me to connect with the field and really to be a sensing, always sensing what's there. And sometimes then kind of sitting and things just come naturally. But I find that SPT can also be very important on fine-tuning yourself as a facilitator, even if you don't use SPT at all. But if you use it in yourself, it kind of makes you a better facilitator, I would argue, presenter, whatever.
Well, thank you very, very much. We're getting close to the end of the time. And I would like to invite everybody to close. Usually, if you have come to my sessions, you're familiar with this, but I'd like to invite you to take a moment to right now, if you like to close your eyes, however you like to go in or keep them open, but it's the sense of thinking of the you that came into this call an hour ago, and where you were and how you were feeling and what was in your mind, and then the you that is sitting right here right now. And just in that little span of time, just 1 hour, something have happened, whether it's by a question that you asked or somebody else. Like, there's a sense of like almost acknowledging what's the shift that happened between when I come in and who I am right now. And if you were to find a word to describe that experience, to describe that shift, to describe that sensation, what will that word be? And just to make it easier for all of us, since there's so many people in the call, when you have the word, you can put it in the chat and I will name them. And in this way, we're just going to close. Okay? So what's a word that describes the experience that you're having right now? Warmth. Thank you. Gratitude. Confident. Wholer, more whole. Thank you. Confirmation, gratitude, inner connection, curiosity, similar. Beautiful. Yeah, my word is connected in. It's just a sense of some like going in and feeling something clicked inside. So thank you very much, everybody, for coming. And of course, I hear somebody else created connection. Just share it. Thank you, Vasco. This was really wonderful. And so I'm so glad I'll get to see you again later on for the Spanish version of this.
Portuñol, que voy a hablar portuñol.
So, and thanks, everybody. This is something that happens every first Tuesday of the month. So if you got the Eventbrite, you can just, all the dates are there. You can just go click and register again. And next month, we're going to have Daniela Coley Ferraz from Brazil also. Daniela is also a basic program teacher. It's an SPT teacher. So she will share with us some of her experience as well. Okay, so this is it. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
If you want to see these recordings are going to be in my YouTube channel, which I will post in all the Facebook pages that you've seen this advertised. So, thank you. Bye-bye.